to Nigerians.
Nigerians react. Welcome the release of abducted Chibok girl. Say there is hope for Nigeria.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we examine the uses and abuses of security votes, plus the release of additional 82 Chibok schoolgirls by Boko Haram insurgents.
Well, above all other attributes, security, that is, territorial integrity, is what defines a state. This significance is reflected in the Nigerian constitution in a very crucial manner.
Quite right, Blessing. Now, security is perhaps the only appropriation vote over which the executive is granted discretionary spending. Now, the expectation, of course, is that the high office holders will exercise this discretion with utmost fidelity to the public interest.
Well, he said, in our culture, that of festering corruption, this spirit is observed more in the breach, and it is getting worse.
Well, the truth is that nobody really knows how security vote got into the country's political lexicon. And by the way, if you look at Section 14B of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it states that it is hereby accordingly declared that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. Well,
the second schedule in the Constitution. It's, however, to be noted that nowhere did the section or any other part of the nation's statutes book state that there shall be a pool of funds called security votes.
Well, as things have been since the return to democracy in 1999, every month a huge amount of money is provided to the office of the president and then state governors for security purposes. Now, this amount is usually also unaccounted for.
Unconfirmed reports put the monthly allocation to each of the 36 state governors as security votes at 500 million naira. This amounts to 6 billion naira annually per state and 210 billion naira for 35 states, excluding the Federal Capital Territory.
Now, in theory, security votes are catch-all line items inserted in the budget of the respective government to give recipients the flexibility to cover ad hoc security expenditures. But it turns out that in practice, they are actually opaque slush funds that officials have long used to privatize, as it were, the personal funds or redirect them for political purposes.
Now, many analysts have also argued that the idea of security vote has always sounded antithetical to basic democratic tenets of transparency and accountability. So,
what are security votes? What is the splits in the Nigerian, under Nigerian law? And why, in spite of the huge monthly releases as security votes, the spate of violence and crime has continued to rise and rise, and how are state governors in particular utilizing the funds collected every month as security votes? These and other questions we shall attempt to provide answers to in the first leg of our conversation on Good Morning Nigeria today. My name is Kingsley Osadalo.
And for our second topic for discussed on the program today is the release on Saturday of about 82 schoolgirls out of a group of more than 200 kidnapped by the Boko Haram militants in the school in Chibok 3 years ago in exchange for prisoners.
Well, you will recall that immediately after the kidnap occurred on the 14th of April 2014, the established number of the girls who were kidnapped came to 219. That's, of course, they were kidnapped by Boko Haram, which has since killed over 15,000 persons and displaced several millions in the course of their 7-year insurgency.
So what does the release of the 82 Chibok girls mean to government to get all the abducted girls released? And what is the security implications of swapping the 82 girls for captured Boko Haram terrorists? These and other questions we shall try to provide answers to as our guests join us in the course of the program. My name is Blessing Abu. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
And once again, I'm Kingsley Osadola. We are reaching you live on the network service of Africa's largest television network, that's the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, in the course of the program, we have our regular companion segments.
Sure, we do. And by now, some of them we'll take a review of the papers for the day. We'll take a look at business reports, foreign as well as entertainment news right here on the program. But let's start off with the news this morning, and Chibuno is our guide. Good morning, Anne.
Hello, Blessing and Kingsley. Hope you had a good weekend.
Yes, and yourself.
Well, good morning. Here is the news. President Muhammadu Buhari is now in London for follow-up medical consultation with his doctors. The president departed Abuja in the early hours of today. A statement from the special advisor to the president on media and publicity said the president had planned to leave Sunday afternoon but decided to tarry a bit due to the arrival of 82 Chibok girls who arrived Abuja earlier in the day. The president wishes to assure all Nigerians that there is no cause for worry. Femi Adesina said the president is very grateful for the prayers and good wishes of the people and hopes they would continue to pray for the peace and unity of the nation. The statement says the length of the president's stay in London will be determined by the doctors and that the government will continue to function normally under the able leadership of the vice president. President Buhari has transmitted letters about the trip to the Senate and the House of Representatives in compliance with Section 145, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution. Well, before leaving for London, President Muhammadu Buhari formally received the 82 released Chibok schoolgirls at his residence. He described their release after nearly 3 years in Boko Haram captivity as a pleasant second anniversary gift to the people of Nigeria. The president reassured the nation that no effort will be spared in ensuring that all other Nigerians who have been abducted safely regain their freedom. He commended the security agencies, the Red Cross, and all those who contributed in securing the release of the girls.
I am very pleased to have personally met you and to assure you that the presidency will personally supervise the performance of these trusted with social welfare commitments made by the federal government.
It's part of our promise that we will not declare the Boko Haram issue closed until every single person, especially these guys, every person who was abducted is returned.
Information, Lai Mohammed promised that the federal government will provide special care and protection to the girls. President of the Senate, Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, has commended the efforts of President Muhammadu Buhari-led federal government, security operatives, and the International Red Cross on the release of the 82 Chibok schoolgirls that were part of the group abducted by Boko Haram in 2014. In a statement signed by his special advisor on media and publicity, Yusuf Olaniyonu, Saraki expressed delight at the development, saying that the prayers and well wishes of Nigerians and the global community had led to the return of more of our daughters. He said by this feat, those that are still out there should be rest assured that Nigeria will not forget them and that this government will continue to do everything within its power to bring them back home. The Senate President reassured that the Senate and by extension the National Assembly will continue to do everything within its power to augment the efforts of the executive and international partners in securing the release of more girls and ending the Boko Haram menace once and for all. And similarly, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, has commended President Buhari for his continued dedication to the safe return of the abducted Chibok girls that culminated in the latest release of 82 schoolgirls who were abducted by Boko Haram terrorists in April 2014. In a statement issued by his special advisor on media and public affairs, Turaki Hassan, Dogara described the development as delightful and heartening and commended the efforts of the security agencies and all others who were involved in the negotiation process. He recalled that last month, the House of Representatives adopted a motion urging the executive to expedite negotiation for the release of the schoolgirls who remain in captivity. Residents of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, have commended President Muhammadu Buhari and the military for ensuring the release of 82 more Chibok girls abducted by Boko Haram terrorists 3 years ago.
It's a thing of joy for all Chibokians and I believe all Nigerians. And today it will be true. So that will definitely tell you that the government is really serious on the issue of release of these Chibokians. We really thank the President, Mr. President, for that. He's a man of his word. He has kept his word, and really Nigerians are happy about that.
Our people have been praying for the release of these girls, and many others have been fasting and praying, and God is rewarding our efforts. I would like also to say thank you for the federal movement.
I am highly delighted because one of the promises our President Buhari made before his election was to see that the Chibok girls are totally released.
Earlier, we spoke with Mr. Yaga Yarakawa Chibok, the chairman of Chibok local government area, on the mood in the town. Well, that's the news for now. Blessing and Kingsley will be back after this break.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words. Run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
What happened? It was a mosquito. Daddy, here.
What's happening here?
Mama, mosquitoes.
I sprayed, but the mosquitoes aren't dying.
No longer, because I've bought Motain Power Guard, which kills 100% mosquitoes. Motain Power Guard kills 100% mosquitoes.
Coca-Cola?
So, you want a free Coca-Cola, but you have to drink it here.
So what's up, sweetheart? You really look like you're up to something.
I have a secret.
Okay.
I'll be going to Europe next week.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like you have your visa, your passport, your plane ticket?
No, not that way. Some men are helping us. We pay them, they take us through the desert, and then we cross the sea into Europe.
The desert, the sea. Isn't that the route where many have died?
Yes, it is indeed a very dangerous journey. In 2016 alone, 4,900 people died while crossing the Mediterranean Sea to enter Europe. Many were Nigerians. For the very few who survived the journey, they are forced into prostitution or other crimes just to survive. Eventually, they will be arrested and deported to Nigeria. Don't be a victim. Don't go this way.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by
by NTA.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Time now for the business report of the day. Nigerian Investment Commission says opportunities abound in Nigeria despite recession, and they're capable of creating wealth. Leah Katumba Batunde will tell us more.
Hello and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria Business News. Strong businesses and entrepreneurial prowess have been burned from bad economic situations. The negative economic indices that characterize the Nigerian economy in the past year has given rise to a number of efforts geared towards improving the standard of living of Nigerians. For the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, NIPC, working on improving the investment climate is a sure task to enhance sectors hitherto discovered, one of which is business processing outsourcing. And Emeka Offor, Director Investment Promotion of the Commission, tells NTA Business News it is the priority to make Nigeria the top foreign portfolio investment destination on the continent.
NIPC conducted a sector scan, and we are trying to find out the sectors that will basically impact on Nigerians, create more jobs that we can easily attract investments to. So business process outsourcing is like using ICT, information, communication and technology to provide services that ordinarily could have been done in different ways or in more mundane ways.
She said the sector is $100 billion worth if properly harnessed. Value addition along the agriculture and textile and garments, leather industry, light manufacturing, real estate, power, healthcare and automotive industry are sectors the Commission is telling investors to come into so as to engage the teeming population of the unemployed. Nigeria's unemployment rate rose to 13.9% in the third quarter of 2016 from 13.3% in the second quarter of the same year, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS. The NBS disclosed that there had been 8 consecutive increases in the unemployment rate since the fourth quarter of 2014. The Nigerian Stock Exchange opened the month of May on a strong footing. The immediate past week saw a 4-day trading session as the federal government declared Monday the first public holiday to mark Workers' Day celebration. The NSE All-Share Index and market capitalization appreciated by 1.85% and 1.75% week on week. Now that's business news for this hour. Thank you for watching.
All right, thank you very much, dear Leah Katumba Batunde, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us, we'll take a look at the headlines on the front pages of some of today's newspapers.
Bayo Toyebi has joined us again for today's review. Good morning to you, Bayo.
Good morning.
Hope you had a beautiful weekend.
Yes, very restful. Good morning, Kinsley, and good morning, Nigeria.
All right, pleasure to have you join us today, Bayo. Let's begin by taking a look at the very busy front pages of some of the papers. Mercy, you want to kick off with?
Okay, let's start off with the busier one of the ones I have. Okay, the New Telegraph has leading this morning, Buhari off to London for medical treatment with 3 riders, about 3 or 4. Presidency, doctors will determine length of stay. And Osinbajo takes over. Diary of Mr. President, and also will stand with Buhari, is coming from Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But just above that, you have the story on the telecoms, inactive SIMs. Telco's monthly revenue the losses hit about 156.6 billion naira. Right there, with the lead in the headline, you find the photograph of the president with the 82 released Chibok girls in Abuja Sunday. Tears of joy as 82 Chibok girls return. Government to parents, keep hope alive. 113 others will return. And the president received freed girls. Red Cross were neutral intermediary. That's it's captured right on the front page of the New Telegraph. Okay, still on the Chibok girls, for the Nigerian pilot quickly. Just below the photograph, we have the story on the kidnap. Boko Haram planning to kidnap foreigners. US and UK are the ones listed there as 82 free Chibok girls arrive Abuja. Kingsley?
All right, let's take a look at the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper. Daily Sun, of course, like the New Telegraph, has as its lead story, the copy on the president's latest trip to London. Buhari off to London for medical follow-up. By two riders also. Length of stay to be determined by doctors, says presidency. Details of that on page 8. And Oshibajo panel's report on SGF and NIA boss hangs in the balance. There's a contrary headline, though, from another newspaper. Yes, we'll come to that shortly. Now, below the nameplate of the Daily Sun is a headline, Rivers at 50, I won't succumb to blackmail and intimidation. That's according to Wike, who is governor of Rivers. Details of that story on page 11. And Anambra, why Obiano is winning security war. The photograph from the front page of the Daily Sun shows some of the 82 recently released Chibok schoolgirls, and to the right there you have a sidebar listing the names of the schoolgirls who have been released. The story jumps to page 6, that you have all of them listed there. And then below you have some other headlines. Southeast governors, okay, economic integration. Appoint 10-man team. That's on page 10. And DSS debriefs freed Chibok girls as president meets them. That's on page 6. And PDP, that's the kicker, we are not part of new party. That's attributed to the Makarfi faction. Details on page 8. Bayo.
Yes, President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to arrive in London, having left in the early hours of yesterday. He's said to have transmitted letters to the Senate and the House of Representatives as required by the Constitution. It may be recalled that when he returned about 2 months ago, he said he would need in some following weeks to do follow-up consultation. His trip was intended for Sunday afternoon, but he has to push it forward to receive the 82 Chibok girls that were released on Saturday. The president was said to have monitored the process of the release of the 82 girls on Saturday, which involved Switzerland, the International Committee for the Red Cross, and some non-governmental organizations, as well as the security. The president says he had indicated that he is prepared to bind backwards to agree to terms only to secure the release of the girls. He expressed his gratitude to the international undercover negotiations. Local and international media described the negotiations to free the girls as arduous and frustrating. The conditions set this time were so frustrating that they almost were giving up, but for the insistence of the Swiss government representative and International Committee for the Red Cross, who were very neutral. President has received the girls at his official residence. He described it as a pleasant second anniversary gift to Nigeria. Minister of Information also gave some clarification, saying restrictions of access by the media was to control the narrative. President reassured Nigerians, especially relations and friends of the abducted, of his determination to secure the release of the remaining girls and any other Nigerians that are in captivity. And he says, no human being should go through this kind of ordeal. Meanwhile, Daily Trust reports that negotiations for the release of the third set of the girls has already begun. It may be recalled that 276 girls were abducted on 14th April from Chibok. 57 escaped on their own, bringing the tally to 219. 2 were found in May 2016, bringing it to 17, and 21 were released in October 2016, which brought the tally to 196. 2 others were found, one in November and the other in January. Our tally, 194. On day 1,118, 82 were released. It has now brought the tally to 112 that we are still expecting. So far, 164 have come home. However, it may be recalled that when Amina Nkeki was released, she indicated that 6 of them, unfortunately, may have died. Our hearts go out to the families, the parents, and for the anxieties for this furlong of their children, and we pray that the girls will come home back safely.
All right, Bayo. Yeah, thanks a lot for that very detailed commentary on the story of the release of the latest set of Chibok schoolgirls who were in the captivity of Boko Haram. Let's take a look at Daily Trust front page. Daily Trust, electricity tariff may rise by July. That's on page 15. Electricity tariff may rise by July, page 15, and DSS releases Suswam on self-recognition. Suswam is the former governor of Benue State. Details of the story on page 6. But the lead story, of course, for Daily Trust also speaks to the latest development in the presidency. Oshibajo takes charge as Buhari returns to the UK. And then at the foot of the front page of the Daily Trust, we have 3 headlines. 67 bandits surrender arms in Sokoto. That's on page 8 in greater detail. And on page 38, 39-year-old Macron wins French presidency. And Tinubu, as the kicker, focus on Buhari's honest leadership, not his health. Details on page 8. Well, those are the headlines we can take in the meantime from the papers that we have with us. Bayategi, we'd like to thank you for being here today. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Tomorrow will be another day.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, don't forget we are dealing with 2 issues today for conversation. The first one has to do, obviously, with the release of 82 Chibok schoolgirls, plus abuse and misuse of security votes.
Everyday air. Ordinary air. And then there's TomTom Air. There's air, and then there's TomTom Air. What are you breathing? New TomTom 5-piece pack.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain. Fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust. From the south-south to the northeast, southeast to the northwest, southwest to the north-central, the Future Assured project and its components, Get Involved, is restoring hope to millions of Nigerian women and children.
We are actually doing a lot under Future Assured, the program of Her Excellency Mrs. Aisha Muhammadu Buhari. And I believe what we are doing so far is impacting positively on the lives of women and children in Nigeria, particularly those in the internally displaced camps across the nation.
Get Involved. Support the Future Assured initiative. Email programs@futureassured.org.ng. Future Assured, promoting and protecting the lives of Nigerian women and children.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, the program is Good Morning Nigeria. Now, as part of a discourse this morning, of course, the first leg is taking a look at the release of the 82 schoolgirls that's from Chibok. Well, the issue of the Chibok schoolgirls' abduction has been in the news in the last 3 years or more and has generated divergent comments on how to get the girls back. Abdul Malik Adio in this background report will refresh our memories.
It was sad development not only in Chibok community in Borno State, but the entire Nigeria when the news of the abduction of more than 200 Chibok schoolgirls by the Boko Haram terrorists broke out in April 2014. 57 of the girls escaped soon after the abduction. Thereafter, efforts made to secure the release of the remaining girls were unsuccessful. With the coming of the Buhari administration in May 29, 2015, the president assured Nigerians of his administration's commitment towards the release of the remaining abducted Chibok girls. The first Chibok student to be recovered was Amina Ali Kelly and her daughter, who were found on the outskirts of Sambisa Forest in May 2016. As part of commitment to rescue all the girls, the federal government began negotiation with the Boko Haram terrorists. This negotiation paid off with the release of 21 of the abducted girls in October 2016. The release of the 21 girls was greeted with encomiums and accolades by well-meaning Nigerians within and outside the country, including the Bring Back Our Girls group. But the Buhari administration continued to reassure Nigerians of its determination to rescue all the remaining Chibok girls and other people in captivity of the Boko Haram terrorists. 7 months after the release of 21 girls, another set of 82 abducted girls were also released.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Malik Adio, for that background report. Now we have with us in the Abuja studios the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu. Madam Garba Shehu, a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, and also from our Lagos Network studios, we have a security expert, of course, a regular face on Good Morning Nigeria, Captain Umar Aliu. Captain Aliu, I'm delighted to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you.
Let's begin from the home front, which is right here in the studios with Garba Shehu. Madam Garba Shehu, of course, the news broke over the weekend of the release of 82 additional Chibok schoolgirls. So out of 219, we have some 113 still unaccounted for. But it's been positive comments all around for those who have apprehended the news. For the government in particular, what does this mean?
Well, it means that the commitment the president has himself given at the Eagle Square on the day of his inauguration said finally that the homecoming of the girls would mark the completion of the defeat of terror. Without the girls coming back home, Boko Haram cannot be said to be defeated. So it's a strong commitment that the administration has given to the country. And this is a fulfillment of that promise that has been made.
All right. Now, but how tough was it? I mean, the last set of girls who were released, that happened about 7 months ago. Mm-hmm. And but only a couple of weeks ago, we also saw demonstrations by various interest groups, you know, badgering the president and the presidency for information about the Chibok abducted schoolgirls. But there seemed to have been the impression that all had gone silent, and then suddenly we are here with the happy news. So what was so tedious about securing the release of the latest set of girls?
Well, first of all, you must establish credibility. If there is a negotiation between partners, credibility is important. You needed to have people who are guarantors, because if you give commitments and commitments are not fulfilled, then the whole thing amounts to nothing. And don't forget also that when those 21 were released, a lot of controversies also followed. There were accusations, not verified, and certainly totally untrue, which to the effect that ransom was paid, and that this had, unsettled quite a number, especially the security establishment, because when there came a resurgence of, the attacks and all of that, people were quick to hold on to that and to begin levying accusations that it is arising from. Of course, as I said, it is totally untrue. But then you have to be very careful in the kind of agreements that you reach to ensure that, of course, you don't empower, the enemy. Thank God for all of the successes that have been achieved, especially given what the president described as the technical defeat of the Boko Haram. I think that itself has the effect of forcing their own hand. I am using this very carefully, to the negotiating table, because Boko Haram had lost all, territorial base, and the capacity to launch those massive attacks have all been lost.
All right,
so what that means is they probably are themselves more inclined to come into the negotiation table to talk.
Okay, but for this, what does it give us as security implication? Now we've been told, or the position is that these 82 girls were actually swapped in exchange for some Boko Haram insurgents. We had this impression that there was the group that was faceless. Nobody seems to know who is who. So what kind of implication is this giving the kind of security that we're actually combating?
Well, all sorts of apprehensions are being raised concerning that. I don't want to be accusatory, because if my daughter was among those that have been stolen, I would raise this kind of question. In fact, in the course of these negotiations, the back and forth, I remember talking to one high official, obviously higher than myself, when I heard all of the things that they were asking for, and the tardiness with which some people were responding to this, my sense was, look, I'm sorry, as I said, I'm not being accurate, if their daughters were involved, they probably wouldn't be as tough, as difficult as this. Let's try to look at this from the point of view of the parents. I said to this big I said, look, if the parents knew that this is what stands between the freedom of their girls and freedom, and that we are stalling on this, they will kill us. So people will say all sorts of things, but how many people? Perhaps less than a dozen were released. In a situation where thousands of the suspected militants against 82 girls innocently taken, from their homes and their school, I think that on balance of advantage, I think these apprehensions are unfounded. And to add also the fact that the number that you are throwing back to Boko Haram, would you consider that number as being capable of changing the rules of engagement between our own forces and them? And certainly nobody can come to that kind of conclusion.
All right, Malam Garba Shehu, thank you very much. We'll return to you later in the course of the conversation. Let's go over now to Captain Umar Aliyu at our Lagos Network studio. You saw him a moment ago on the screen. Captain Aliyu, let's get your thoughts on what your perspective is on the implications, the significance or otherwise of the release of the 82 Chibok schoolgirls.
People have been airing opinions on the exchange or the swap of insurgents for 82 girls, 2 insurgents to 82 girls. But you see, we must be clear here. At the point you had over 200 girls taken away from the safe custody of their schools, at that point you actually lost graces to call any negotiation shorts. If you had over 200 of your children in the adversary's hands, you really do not have any morsels or any graces on the negotiation table. The closest you can get to that is to do what you can call a swap or exchange. Having said that, the security implications, as people say, are virtually, for me, mild. Don't forget that the people or the insurgents being exchanged definitely must have been debriefed, definitely must have been profiled, and released back to their cells or to their terrorist groups. And the 82 girls have been brought in there safe. What we should be expending our energy now on is to see how these girls can be absorbed, how these girls can be resettled, how we can pay attention to post-trauma stress disorder symptoms that may have accompanied these girls home and do something about that, how we can reabsorb them and ensure that they are used in ways that they can also become ambassadors of girl-child education. They can become ambassadors of peace. They can become ambassadors of hope for people who have gone through this kind of experience. And parents who are yet to have their own children released, proactively, these children can also be used as inspiration points, as opposed to all the unnecessary bickerings I'm getting. Our daughters, 82 of them, regardless where they are from, have been released. And I think we should be happy about that. Whether they were swapped or they were, I don't know, it's not the point. We lost the right to have any leverage on the negotiation table when over 200 of our girls were taken away just like that. So we do not really have that grace. We should accept that and move on.
All right, Captain Omar, should it have been the option to be employed right from the onset, if judging from what you have just talked about now? Should this option be used from the onset instead of waiting till this moment?
Indeed. You will agree with me that at the onset, when everything started about 3-4 years ago, the Northeast was an El Dorado. The Northeast was actually a place where people were going to make money. And people certainly believed that the more it deteriorated, the faster the funds will roll in. Okay? It's a good thing we're discussing security votes too. And from the point of incidents, the response timing is key. If something happens, the time it takes you to respond makes all the difference. The longer it takes you to respond, the slimmer the chances are for you to make any impact. A very mild example of what I'm saying is, take a road accident, for example. If there were wounded people, the faster you respond, the higher the chances for those people who have been injured to survive. And the later you respond, the slimmer the chances. So it took us all of how many years now to respond? And what else could you gauge the response to be other than negotiation? I mean, it's clear, it's crystal clear. If we had gone in probably faster, 2-3 hours after the act, a 10-kilometer blanket was spread over, a radius of 10-kilometer security blanket was spread over that spot, the chances are you would have retrieved them, because it's not easy to move over 200 people beings across 10 kilometers, particularly when you have committed an offense. You will have to do it by stealth. But we did nothing. Nothing was done. It was politicized. It was sartorialized. A lot of things happened, and we're looking at so many years later, and some people are saying, hey, we need to go and force them off. Force them off who? You've lost that window. The graces are not there. So if we had done something earlier, it's highly probable we would have retrieved them. But then not more than, not years later, definitely not. It will take a magician to be able to do that.
All right. Well, Captain Aliyu, again, still with you in our Lagos Network studios. Well, if you were to take a look at the entire picture of 219 and then the numbers that we have who have regained their freedom, we still have some 113 or so unaccounted for. And then it would appear now that the negotiations have succeeded. From your perspective, what are those things that should be avoided while we still hope and expect the return of those who are unaccounted for? What should not be done?
First and foremost, we need not sensationalize this release of 82 girls as it seems to be the case on some social media platforms. If we were to do the math, you will discover that the number that has been released can be said to be almost or thereabout 50% in 2 years of the present dispensation. Now, I'm not a politician, and I don't do politics, so I'm not really marketing the present administration. They have their flaws. But then if we can get that much out within this time scope, then the chances are we're going to get more out. So people have to be guarded in their comments. People should not deliberately go out like a particular governor came out to say, you don't find what is not lost. That's a shame of a thing to say. Those girls were lost. If anybody had any problems with the fact that they were lost, should pay their parents a visit. And we should be guarded. We should not throw spanners into the scheme of things simply because we are not part of the ruling party or not. Those girls are not politicians, they are daughters. And if they are not your daughter, they are somebody's daughter. So restraint, that's what I would advise. It calls for restraint until we have all of them out of harm's way. Then we can go and do the normal thing we are known for, the mudslinging and all the blacklisting.
All right, well, Captain Aliyu, thanks a lot. We'll come back to you to get your closing thoughts on this, back again to our Abuja studios. Malam Garba Shehu, well, the girls have been released, and then the next phase, obviously, will be their rehabilitation. And as we very well know, I mean, nobody could possibly be through this kind of experience for over 3 years and not require, a great deal of care and then reintegration back into the society. What are we looking at in this respect?
Well, without speaking for the Boko Haram terrorists, I would say that the 82 we just got now have come to us in a much better shape than the 21 earlier got. That is not to say that they have not been traumatized. Investigation is ongoing, medical, psychological, and all of that. If there were abuses, so far we have seen none of it, but possibly in investigation by the experts, doctors, and all of that will reveal if there were abuses. Yes, but the debriefing is ongoing. Some of them probably may have been infected in a way. They may have been radicalized. Nobody, you can't tell. That's right. From the team that negotiated, it was clear that 93 names were on the table. One declined to come back and simply said, I've chosen a husband and I don't want to leave. So these are the kind of things that you probably have to deal with without endangering their own lives and also endangering society, because to throw them back into mainstream would can come with implications, consequences that you probably have to manage. So the education, as the president has said, the education is a key priority, and the government wants to make a huge example of their own education and their welfare and their well-being. So as it is, they are now in hospital. And when they leave, that they probably have to go to another center where they probably be, a trauma center where they probably will be healed in case of traumatization and all of that before maybe they are put back in the classroom.
All right, Malam Garba Shehu, first insinuations, of course, were still rife that most of the girls were no longer in the group. But having this large number come back to us, at least that shows that there is positive news coming from wherever they are quartered. What more do we need to know about this, having the knowledge of where these girls could still be?
Well, they will be interviewed by experts in security and society and all of that. You know that information about this 83 came from the 21 that were first set free.
Okay.
And that was why immediately after they said, yes, there are 83 others somewhere. And the government took it very seriously, and through interlocutors, established contact with the group holding this, and they said, yes, we have 83. So that's how the negotiation began. So maybe from these ones also, when they are interviewed, they probably can give indication as to where more of the girls can be found. Military exercises are ongoing. Nobody has put a stop to that. It's a two-track approach, but negotiation is also, you know.
Garbashir, I'd like you to clarify this. When you were speaking earlier, you were talking about the incidents of what is so-called Stockholm syndrome, you know, where a kidnapped victim then begins to sympathize with the abductors. You were talking about there were 93 of them who were on the table, but now you said again 83 of them. Can we get exact figures? You said 93 of them were on the table, on the cards, one declined. That will give you 92. Or is it that 83 of them were on the cards, one declined? Let's get the figures.
83 on the cards talked about being discussed, and they were, and the group was ready to let them go. But as I said, 82 came to us because one said, "I'm fine here, leave me alone," and that's and that she had found happiness with the partner she had found in the group.
All right, that's fine. One other point that I would like, to also touch very quickly, because you have also had a lot of, reactions, particularly in the social media, with regard to this. Captain Aliu was talking about this, a moment ago. The media blackout. It seems that everybody wants everything to be out there so that you have free interaction without having to go through the very delicate process of debriefing and ensuring that. Information doesn't go out there that would jeopardize further negotiations and so on and so forth. What's your take? Was this a deliberate media blackout, or otherwise?
I'm unable to see where the media blackout has happened. I'm aware that all of the press house, State House Press Corps couldn't be admitted into the president's home when he received them yesterday, and they were not happy about it. But again, it is on account of the fact that this was the home. The president had accommodated, larger press representation in his office during engagements. But in this particular case, he received them in his home. I'm not ruling out possibilities that there are security concerns, but the fact of the matter is also that the place would have been too small to have accommodated everyone. Otherwise, if you ask me, as you have in airplane crashes, families deserve to get a priority over people who just want to satisfy curiosity over the given matter.
All right, thank you very much. There was also, of course, part of what has been reported since the weekend, the federal government's praise, as it were, of the Swiss government for their role in all of this, together, of course, with the stories coming out from the Red Cross as to what they did in helping to transport the girls. Is the praise, of course, as well earned?
Well, I'm in a difficult position to say no, because we have received a lot of international support. We have also received local support, NGOs, local and international, and yes, one or two countries. At this time, it is unsafe that countries and institutions like that be cited, and maybe if we had said this earlier on, we may have made our own mistakes, but I think that we would like to keep that. They know themselves how much they contributed and are quite pleased with what they have done.
Well, also, there are also things about negotiation with different groups. From the look of things, this is a particular group coming on, at least having to release this one. Can we have maybe detail further clarification about the different groups that seem to be over the abduction of these girls, if it's so?
Well, we're talking to the people who are going in between the government and the groups. I can say that we are aware that there are two dominant factions, but in dealing with them, I can also assure you that our own contacts and their own supporters, they're able to bring all the two groups to the table. And so therefore, the Nigerian government, through these third parties, is talking to everyone involved.
All right, Madam Garbashir, of course, the number indicating what we have is some positive feeling. It's taken 2 years of this administration. Of course, the whole saga has been like 3 years on now. Are we likely to be waiting for another 3 years or more before we secure this other? What other things are on ground for us to start looking at to quickly secure the release of the remaining girls? Of course, there are indications that some could have died from what we heard.
Well, and I like what the security expert has done already for us, laying the ground. But the government is getting a lot of suggestions, and I'm sure that in due course it will be formulating the next possible steps. Look, this probably may represent a huge opportunity that will probably lead the understanding, and I think as the security expert has explained a part of this, I think the sense is we're in a different mode now, a post-conflict, mode. The war has been won and more or less ended. There's some cleaning up going on there, but then we're almost there. But the thing is that then you have to manage the situation after the war and seek reintegration, because these elements are also Nigerian and all of that. And so how do you de-radicalize and have them back into the society? My point is, I think that we are hoping that this will lead to all of the girls coming back and then open the door for peace in Nigeria and the entire Lake Chad Basin area.
All right, Malam Gabasho, thank you very much. Just to return to Captain Aliyu. Captain Aliyu, this is still a delicate process. I mean, if we have slightly more than 50% of the abducted girls, still out there, we need, of course, to worry about how to get the remaining girls out. If the negotiations have worked so far, what would be your further prescription as to how we can ratchet up the moves to get the additional, to get the outstanding number of girls back into safety?
As I said earlier, the number we have now is enough for us to actually build the missing blocks for the other balance to return, I think, 116 or 112. We have enough people on ground with the right questions from the right people. We can actually begin to build a picture of exactly what is happening. And there are people, there are resource persons available that can actually take those girls back, and they can give us vivid, so vivid, even an artist can give you an impression of so many things about their lives in the last 3 years. Other than that, this is a very, very key one, is saliently silent. I had Malam Garba say something like one of those girls decided she'd found her place and she would not want to come home. If you weigh that against the 82 generous girls, or the generously released 82 girls, you begin to think with me, in my own intelligence capacity, that those girls need to be debriefed. My brothers in the security and intelligence agencies can think mind control. I wouldn't go beyond that.
All right, Captain Aliyu, well, thank you very much. One other aspect that we can't immediately touch on because of its implication, I mean, we all know that they have mop-up operations ongoing. Are these likely to jeopardize negotiations?
Not at all. It's now a balance. It's actually, we can call it a trade by barter situation now. Boko Haram has been decimated. They do not have the strength. They do not have the strength they used to have, 2 years back. And what you have to understand is they will want to trade positions. They will want to trade favors. And so those girls, they have become what I want to call trump cards. It's indeed very, very encouraging that they released 82 in one fell swoop for just 2 of their own members. It's either those members are very important or they have laced 82 of my daughters with something for us, and that's why I said my brothers should think mind control. One said she won't come back. Is it possible there are many who actually won't want to be back, but are actually back with a mission? You need experts. You need people in the know to handle that. It's very key.
Right, Captain Aliu, thank you very much. Just to indicate that we have reactions from viewers who have used our Twitter handle at NTA GMA. We'll quickly take some of those tweets now. Anthony Idiowa tweets, someone claimed that nobody was kidnapped. Now let us give kudos to the sincerity of the Buhari administration for promises kept.
And from Tony, we have this tweet. It is a welcome development. At least we're moving forward with the release of 82 Chibok girls. And
Suleiman Yusuf has this tweet, regardless of the numbers being released, I think this is a right step in the right direction. More should be done to ensure the release of the rest.
Imran Rabiu, it is indeed a moment of joy to have back, as the girls now. I pray for you, for your well-being and success of this change administration.
And then we have this from Engineer Abdullahi. Engineer Abdullahi tweets, the parents of these girls will ever be grateful. Now, the consequences of negotiations will not be their worry. My thumbs are up. Now, that's the last tweet that we're taking in the meantime. Well, we'd like to thank our guest in the Lagos studio, Captain Omar Aliu. Captain Aliu, thanks a lot always for your insights. Well, of course, we'll revert to you when there are subsequent developments. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, now we still have with us here Malam Garbashir. Malam Garbashir, we closed the topic of the abduction of, the return of 82 abducted Chibok school girls. In the early hours today, there's a report that, of course, the Mr. President is off again to London for further medical examination. He did say this about 2 months ago when he returned through the Nigerian Air Force Base in Kaduna. Any cause for worry?
No, the President himself indicated that this be said in the statement, that Nigerians should not worry. It's a follow-up to the earlier trip he had done and the treatment he received. And certainly it's not coming as a surprise to anyone, considering, as you just said to yourself, that the President had indicated that, this trip was impending. And now that it has come, it's for us to just wish that the doctors will have an excellent impressions of him and certify him as being just fine and okay to take his office in full speed.
You've been around in government, and of course you're also a media person, former president of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. What are your concerns sometimes, when the impression is created that, all is not well with the presidency? We have a transmission of power as provided for in the Constitution. Vice President becomes acting president depending on the time the president returns. Is there likely to be any vacuum this time around?
I think that under President Muhammadu Buhari, we have the best constitutional processes in terms of their practice being put on display. The President, in the first instance, didn't need to be pressured by anyone or placard carrying demonstrators or so-called do-gooders. Pressure him to say, he said, no, I'm not, I'm going on vacation. This is the constitutional process. VP should take over and while I'm away. And that's excellent. This is exactly what he has done. There's absolutely no vacancy. Even when he was here, he had acted in full capacity as President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. And now that he had transmitted power to the Vice President, who is equally capable, equally competent, and he's proven his own mettle, it will be well with the country. There's nothing to worry about.
All right, Madam Garbashir, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, we'd like to thank you for being part of our program on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, let's say Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of Africa's largest television network. We take a short break now. When we return, the next topic, of course, is one that you should listen to, namely abuse and misuse of security votes.
People are supposed to help people, but
But people help people and end up wishing they never helped anybody in the first place.
So this is what you people do. Okay? You people spray stolen vehicles. I know that.
In a world of give and take, learn what it takes to give, and the world will be filled with people who value what has been given.
Now my ancestors, all of them, let God bless you.
Until then, there may just be no help. Professor John Bull, your rib-cracking comedy, takes a look at issues arising from charity and compassion this week.
You know from the bottom of my heart, I love you. And there's nothing I will not do for you. But it's not everything. Zuzukweba, with your cap like plate for soup. Damn.
Showing at 8:30 p.m. every Tuesday and Friday on NTA Network International and Star Times.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
Welcome to the new speed of life.
Winning in hot and dry conditions is hard. Causes the body to sweat, which attracts germs that are easily passed from one person to another.
What keeps you so cool, man?
Dettol Cool combines Dettol's protection and an invincible icy feel. For super cool confidence, use Dettol Cool.
Clorets chewing gum neutralizes bad odor. It doesn't just disguise them, it gives you real minty breath.
Admission forms for the 2017-2018 academic session of NTA Television College JAWS into its diploma programs are now on sale. The diploma programs are in film and TV production, broadcast journalism, and TV engineering technology. Applicants are required to have at least 5 credits, including English language and mathematics at SSC, NECO, or GCO levels in not more than one sitting. Application forms can be obtained from the TV College Refi JAWS or at any NTA zonal centers nationwide on payment of a no-refundable fee of 7,500 Naira in bank draft in favor of NTA Television College. Completed application forms should be returned to the Office of the Academic Secretary, NTA Television College, or the Center of Purchase on or before 28th of July 2017. For further inquiries, please call 0806 980 9807 or 0703 660 7155. NTA Television College, training you to be the best you can be.
The program is Good Morning Nigeria, showing live on the NTA. Now to the second leg of our discussion this morning, taking a look at security vote. The concept security vote is not new to politically inclined persons in Nigeria. Said to be the money accrued to the executive at the federal, state, as well as local government levels, conceded to them, but not known to the Nigerian constitution. Well, how true this is? Let's find out from Oyeyemi Ajayi.
The concept of security vote in Nigeria dates back to the military era. History has it that the military needed security vote to have access to information in order to know what is happening around them, as these will prevent coup attempts against the junta. And so they sought the military authorities the right to have a special allocation to have access to secret information against potential coup plotters. That was actually done in secrecy. The precise amount involved, though huge, was unknown. Those commissioned and funded were not known either. In fact, most people never knew such existed. Interesting enough, the so-called security vote was not enshrined in any edict or decree of the military. With the handing over of power to democratically elected civilian government in 1999, the concept of security vote still remained, but was never documented in the Constitution. And so, huge amounts are said to have been set aside as security vote. These funds are not normally appropriated, audited, and therefore accounted for. The alleged misuse of such funds by some states and local government executives has led to many questioning its legality or otherwise. The inability of some states to pay salaries and discharge other functions, citing paucity of fund, while the so-called security vote remains intact, further raises concerns amongst political and economic analysts, with some state governors said to be having as much as 500 million monthly as security vote. A cross-section of the electorate is clamoring for the scrapping of the security vote. Attempts by civil society organizations and other stakeholders to see the end of this practice, which emerged from the military era, has not yielded results, as the structure of this phenomenon has continued to grow in government budgeting and expenditure. Now, what is the position of security votes in Nigeria's constitution? Is it abused by chief executives? How relevant is it to the smooth running of the government? What is the practice in other democratic climes? These are some of the questions guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be providing answers to shortly.
All right, that was Oyemi Ajayi there with a background report on the security vote issue, which we are discussing now. With us here in the Abuja studios, we have a former governor of Kano State. It's currently a senator and chairman of the Senate Committee on Works, distinguished Senator Kabiru Gaya. Senator Gaya, pleasure to have you join us.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very well. And then we also have joining us from our Enugu Network Center, Professor Josephat Onwumere. He's an economist at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Professor Onwumere, a pleasure to have you join us. That's Economics Department is Ansar Goldie building. I remember that.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Let's begin a conversation straight away with the former governor of Kano State, Senator Kabiru Gaya. Security vote means that there is an appropriation for security. It will be useful to understand how security is conceptualized in the first instance to warrant the appropriation.
Well, first of all, let me thank you for being here today and to discuss issues related to the governance of a state or federal. Security vote is very, very important. I was a governor in 1991 and I was sworn in 92 up to 93. And what we use to, the importance of security vote is to maintain the security in that state. As the governor or president of a state or a country is the chief security officer of that state. So whatever it takes for that government to maintain peace is important. That's why they don't allocate a certain amount specifically. Sometimes they go beyond even the amount really prescribed for that year. But certainly whatever it takes to maintain security is really, really important. And the way the amount being spent depends on the situation in that state. For example, is that like, take example of Maiduguri, when the crisis, Borno State, when the crisis started. Sadly, the government of that state will spend so much money to maintain peace, even get information, to get information why there will be these insurgents moving around. So it costs a lot of money. Other states that are relatively peaceful, they don't spend much. So I think it showed the background, it showed that the military started putting this security board in order to get information against coup. The civilians are using that money to maintain peace in their states. So whatever it takes to maintain peace, I think is reasonable. But people give it, sometimes some people or government or governors may abuse the situation. Depends. Nobody, you can't say that everybody is good enough and we're all sincere and honest. But some people, even the governor give instruction for such amount to be spent. Some others start below that rank. Misuse the opportunity. So I believe it is important to use the security but not to scrap it at all, because you have to maintain peace in that state or in the country. You find that the government, like the issue of this insurgency, we have spent so much, like in Kano State. I remember when I was a governor, we had a lot of problems during the election. That was the time when we had election of Abiola and Bashir Topa, and the crisis was so much, so we have to use some funds to make sure that we get information and maintain peace. So it all relatively depends on the state itself and the position of that state.
Well, that security has become a nebulous concept in the thinking of some persons. What you just explained is fair enough, but security, is seen as I said, a nebulous concept that, any and everything, can come under there, including, that's the matter we'll come to shortly, self-aggrandizement, or self-enrichment by the particular officers, either, straight from the top or those who are immediately below. So beyond physical security, beyond trying to gather intelligence, what else, could arise that an executive, a federal, state, or local government who is in charge that says, okay, this is a security matter that warrants my intervention from the security appropriation. What are those likely issues? Practical experience, for instance.
Well, let me just say it clearly on that aspect. Apart from these major issues, how to maintain peace and this, actually, there are no other major issues. But sometimes you use fund to prevent or to get information. So I believe there are people that really abuse the system. They just bring this for security board, and then because that security board is not being accounted for or being investigated for what you have spent, I think that's where generally the problems come up. But I believe and I think after the governance, after the tenure of the governor, because there is a caveat in the constitution that the governors may not be investigated or be taken to court because of this issue of immunity. So, but certainly it's important that we need to trim down to make sure that people are honest and sincere in the way they spend the security, but not to just simply misuse it.
All right, thank you very much, Senator Kabir Gaya. Well, let's go over now to our Enugu studio, where we earlier introduced our guest, Professor Josephat Onwumere. Professor Onwumere, yes, the concept of security vote as itemized and I've seen today, let us take the assistance of trying to break it down. This concept, the allocation, the appropriation generally, what exactly is your own position on the issue of security vote?
Okay, you're asking about the concept of security vote. Yeah, the issue of security vote, like already mentioned there, is something that is not so clear. Security votes, this is an allocation made to certain officers within the jurisdiction, or that is within Nigeria, for the purpose of meeting contingency security challenges. These allocations are outside the normal budgetary allocations to defense. And there lies the problem, how these security votes are funded, how they are designed, how they are funded, and how they are implemented. These are the issues. And allied to security vote is the major concept of security, national security. Everywhere you think of or talk of security vote, you are looking at national security. And national security is an opaque concept. It's an opaque concept in the sense that it can be defined in any way. And there also lies another problem. It lies is another problem because we have the normal issues bordering on security, how to defend the country from external aggression, how to suppress insurgency within the country, and then other security issues. Now, the security votes, the major problem with security votes is that they are not accounted for. Whereas the Constitution has a provision that these security votes should actually be accounted for. That is why Section 85 of the Constitution says that all accounts of the Federation should be audited, and the reports of these audits should be sent to the National Assembly. So there again lies another problem. Is the National Assembly performing the function it's supposed to perform? The National Assembly should actually, in short, has an oversight function to look at these security votes, how they are spent. Not only the National Assembly, even in the states and the local governments, but are they performing these functions? That is the problem. One, since they know they are supposed to perform this transaction, we assume they know. So they might not be performing it for a number of reasons. There might be palpable ignorance, which we doubt. There might also be compromise on their part with the executive so that they don't want to ruffle, create any problems. It might also be that they feel is a necessity because it's such a necessity that it will be used to settle the boys. These are the issues, and we feel, the feeling is that the National Assembly, the state legislatures should perform their functions. These money, the monies allocated for security votes should be accounted for. And in fact, some governors, when they left office, started arguing for security votes to be, I don't know whether to say to be scrapped or to be reduced or anything. Then when they were in office, they didn't say anything. But they've left, they're now talking. So we feel that this issue, the security vote issue, should be appraised within the context of the economy and within the context of our fragile democracy. We have an economy where many people are poor. We have an economy where there is youth unemployment, huge one, and then the level of restiveness is high. So we have to look at security votes in totality. Should it be scrapped? Should it be reduced? And then if it should be reduced, to what level? And should the assembly, the legislature perform its functions or keep quiet? So these are issues I think we might be discussing and talking about as this program goes on.
All right, Professor Umere, thank you very much. We'll come back to you to return to Senator Gaya with us here in the Abuja studios. Professor Umere has raised a number of points, but let's talk essentially now about the utility of the security vote. And therefore, if you allocate money, it's like if money has been voted for provision of infrastructure, roads or otherwise. You want to see the roads. You are the chair of the Senate Committee on Works. You want to see the roads. I mean, if there's any public utility, you want to see the public utility. Now, security votes, in spite of security votes, some commentators, as they have argued, the rate of insecurity in the country since 1999 has been, appalling to say the least. So, are security votes therefore still useful?
Well, let me say, security votes is very, very important to maintain security vote for the governance or governors or federal or governance of a state or a federation, because you not determine when it comes up. You don't know. You cannot say, okay, we expect to put 500 million naira for security vote per annum, and that we shouldn't go beyond that. But you can consume that amount within a certain period of time. For example, like I can give you some few examples where, like when there's insurgents in the Northeast, some other states outside Northeast were affected. For example, take example of Kano, that's my state. The one day there was a bomb blast of more than 500 people lost their lives. And you find that the issue of expenditure on that place by the state will be very high. It may not be it will be unplanned. It may not even be in the budget, so they may end up going into other areas of which monies were budgeted for. Throughout the 3 years or 4 years of insurgency in the Northeast, find that most of the states have spent their money on trying to maintain security in those areas. For example, a few other states now, like presently the Zamfara and Kaduna. I'm the chairman in charge of Southern Kaduna crisis, and then all other crises in various states of the Federation. I'm an ad hoc committee chairman. We went to Zamfara, and the states are spending so much money in maintaining peace in that area. For example, Zamfara state, I give you that. They spend so much in even trying to maintain peace, that the unity between the insurgents there was kind of dialogue or arrangement so that there could be peace in that state. They were paying so much for that. Even when they recover an ammunition from those states, they have to pay for those ammunition. For every AK-47, they pay a certain amount. For every other weapon, they pay a certain amount. So if I put that amount collectively, they gave us a record of they spent about 12 million or 13 billion naira. And that is really, you can't put a budget of 13 billion naira on security. But for them to have peace in that state for those number of years, sadly, whatever amount you spend in maintaining peace in that state, it's important. But the way the money is being spent, that's where we should question it. I think it's also important for the National Assembly and for the State Assembly, after the turn of that gun, they should investigate on this issue, how we spend the security board.
Exactly.
It's very, very important we investigate.
Exactly, Senator Gaya, because some of the issues raised by the guests in Enugu talked about the scant or similarly not available legislation or legislative oversight in some of these areas of spending. Yes, good enough. Some of the areas that you have mentioned in the northeast or part of the north generally, issues of insecurity generally overwhelming, maybe aspect of what had been budgeted for in terms of defense. But now, does this scanty legislative oversight, is it kind of instrumental to what kind of abuse that we have generally, whether the places are infested with areas of general insecurity or not?
I think it's very important we peg. You cannot even peg exactly what the amount is, but there should be a way in which every state assembly and the national assembly too should investigate on the expenditure of on the scrutiny board, because that will give checks and balances. But if it is so open that we don't check, we don't investigate, we don't audit the accounts, which by the Constitution must audit all money spent by federal or by state levels.
But what feel this supposed secrecy to even aspects of the security votes? We've had issues of maybe some political godfathers in some certain states back there. Being on the governor's neck, I must share or partake of that which have been sent to you.
No, there was a clear case of the late Lamido in your state. I mean, he said that he felt he was entitled to a quarter, according to him. It was live on television from Ladoja's administration.
Well, you see, there is a different interpretation by the leaders of those states. I mean, how could you say giving money out of security board? I think it's not proper and it's wrong. Governors should not be allowed to, should not continue to misuse the security board, but some they do very well. They use the little money to maintain the security. I remember in my time, we spent about 500,000 naira per month. So the whole of my security was less than 6 million naira. Yeah, and I had 52 security council meetings in that state. 52 to maintain peace. Ghana has always been a volatile state. But I have 52 security council meetings, which means every week I hold security council meeting. I don't hold security council meeting unless there are problems. And that is why you find that it is important sometimes we allow this, but we must check. We must audit those accounts after maybe every year, so that if we find any governor wanting, then you can do something about it.
But the office of the Auditor General, either at the state level, local government level, or the federal level, well, they are under the executive.
Well, actually, everybody is under the executive, but still we do investigate matters. We do investigate, so there should be transparency and accountability on all money spent by the state, whether it is which is budgeted for. And I think these monies were budgeted for other projects, and the money will have to be diverted to these insecurity challenges. And so they're important to audit those accounts.
All right.
Even though I'm a former governor, but I need to tell that this issue must be audited really. It's very important. That will give more sense of prudence and accountability.
All right, Senator Gaya, thank you very much. We'll come back to you. Let's return to Professor Awumere at our Enugu Network Center. Professor Awumere, in terms of value for money, let's decompose what we find, in the different parts of the country. Well, it may not necessarily be the case that security votes are flagrantly abused by all and sundry. From experience, it is the case, for instance, that, excuse me, where you have joint military police operations. These operations have to be funded from the security vote. Police also from time to time will require equipment. We see state governments donating either speedboats or gunboats or whatever, Hilux pickups and so on and so forth to them. But this also will come from the security vote. But what is unclear is, of course, these donations or these expenditures do not go through the normal procurement process. Should that therefore be a cause for worry?
Yes, it's a serious cause for worry because when you give people funds or you provide funds that are not accounted for, even your own private monies, you account for them to yourself. So what of public funds belonging to the people? The money does not belong to any president, any governor, any local government chairman. The money belongs to the Nigerian people. They are there to make sure that these monies are judiciously utilized. So to serve the people well, a situation should be created where these monies are accounted for, and then the people who are supposed to provide oversight functions carry out the functions assigned to them. Where this does not happen, then the funds are subject to be abused. In other words, the funds can be diverted. And that's why it's been alleged that we have a lot of problems in Nigeria, because when some people are getting as much as 12 billion a year as security funds, and then their states are not getting so much money for capital expenditure, it becomes very worrisome, because some states do not have as much challenges as. I remember again that we have defense budget. So these are very, very important. My take is that they should scale it down and they should be accounted for. Because if you leave it, you are providing avenues to tempt people. If you provide funds to people that they cannot account for, and nobody bothers about accounting for them, either due to compromise or other things, then we are not helping the Nigerian state. We have to help the Nigerian state to make sure that funds belonging to the federation, belonging to the states, belonging to the local governments are judiciously utilized to serve the people. The agency relationship in any democracy between where the people are supposed to be the principal, and the agents are the people serving. Where the people serving, who are the elected people, act with impunity, which is the case now, it is wrong. And we are saying it is wrong, and they know it is wrong. The situation cannot continue. The country is in a recession now, and we need funds to be appropriately utilized. Yes, granted, there are security challenges here and there, and that's why the security vote should back up what provisions are made in the defense budget. But then they should be scaled down. When they are not being accounted for, then there is a problem. So it's a source of worry. It should worry anybody, because those people controlling the votes could decide to divert it. They become stupendously rich. They can fund even insurgencies on their own. So please, I think it's a serious cause for worry, and we should look into it in order not to create security problems within the existing ones already.
Thanks a lot, Senator Gaya. To come back to you, what is your attitude to the suggestion that security votes, at least some items of expenditure on security votes, should be subjected to the normal procurement process? I ask this question advisedly. As you very well know, people argue that when there is crisis, when there is conflict, then some of those who are in charge have the opportunity to say, go and spend, go and spend, go and spend.
No, for example, like purchase of vehicles, you just go and say, bring the vehicles overnight. No, there must be plans, and the government should go through this proper process of procurement and be able to purchase these vehicles. Otherwise, if you just go to buy by the shelf, the cost will be different, and the issue of selective or whoever to be given that contract may be able to use selfish interest in those by the officers concerned. So definitely procurement is very important. You have to procure whatever you are buying. But there are situations where there is emergency cases, like when you talk of buying foodstuffs and when you don't have that in the stock, that means you have to make provisions for that immediately and then purchase those things. So, but they relay the issue of procurement. It gives it a proper auditing, a proper process of which these things can be spent for. And secondly, you see the issue of the increase of this insurgent, the crisis, or the way people spend so much. But there are two factors. One, we have problems of unemployment. You can easily mobilize people to go on demonstration. And even you can find that some other states, they can organize that by themselves so that you can spend security board. If there are demonstrations, you have to provide money to protect that, to make sure that that demonstration did not take place, or even if it took place, it should not be destructive. So, there are ways, but I think most importantly is to have a leader who is not corrupt, who has interests of his state or nation at heart. Those are the kind of people that may not allow misuse of security boards. But when people come in, like just you mentioned Adedebu's case, he said the security board is meant for elders to share the money, or the colleagues or friends or governors or who to share that money. It's wrong. The security board is supposed to be used to maintain security of that state or of the federation.
But we're still on the concept and therefore the utility of the security vote, Senator Gaya. Local governments also have their own security vote, and everybody's talking about security. And the alibi is, the primary purpose of government is the security and well-being of its citizens. So security is seen as the #1 item, but our experience in Nigeria is we're going to be complaining about the high level of insecurity that we have, right still from the local government level, where ordinarily you should gather the primary intelligence that would then go up, filtered through, and then you nip some of these things on the board. Do local governments also need their security vote, where every chairman has a vote and
Well, generally when crisis starts, it starts from the local government area.
That's right.
And when you need information, you get the information from the local government area because they are closer to the people than the state governments or the governors. But you see, where we have problems is we really need to educate the elected people or those governors, or say, because after winning election, there need to be seminars to enlighten the local government chairman the role and how you spend the security board, to also enlighten the governor. Some people don't know, they just use the word security board. There is money that you can simply spend without being audited. But let's now make sure that these amounts are being audited at least yearly on what you have spent on security board. It's very, very important because at least it brings accountability in the system.
Senator Gaya, let's take a look at this key area. We've all talked about this is just money just released in the form of, tackling or enhancing security. Now, the need to make this accounted for, the need to make this audited from time to time will actually help and stem the aspect of corruption like we're trying to fight today with the present administration. Now, where should we begin to push our strength in the area of taking on security votes? Yes, it's needed, it's necessary. Perhaps to be scaled down now, as the guest in Enugu said about the issue of recession. Perhaps on the long run, how do we begin to quarter what is supposed to be, to have a backing that not, this is what abuse that this security vote is facing today?
Yeah, I think the issue of investigating or checking or auditing the accounts every year of the government, especially in the area of security boards, will give now reasons for officers concerned to be more prudent and at least to be more honest and sincere. That can also curtail the expenditure by the government. 2, leadership. Whatever you do, if the leadership is ready to siphon money anyhow, people siphon even money meant for projects on other issues or inflate contracts. So you must have good governance. You must have leaders who are trustworthy. And that's going to be something different again. You have to enlighten people to choose who are good enough to be there, to be their leaders. But people now tend up to elect anybody who has fund, who invested money in election. And once you invest money in election, you find you must look for ways to recover your money. Because when you spend so much, for example, in other states, it costs a lot to win election. Even for a senator or for a governor, it costs a lot. And now, most people think that if you spend billions of naira to an election, then you have to find a way to recover that billions so that you can go for the second term in the election. So therefore, people now hide under the security board and use that money to make sure that they save a lot of money for the election. But if you have honest and sincere people. And you are performing to the grass, you perform well, you do your projects, the community, people understand that you are performing governor or you are performing president, then people will look at how much you spend to win election.
All right, Senator Goya, thank you very much. Let's take reactions now from our viewers, from the tweets that have come in. Quite a number of them. Let's take some of them. Sonny Michael Amakoji, one of our regulars. If this government is actually desirous of changing Nigeria, security votes should be stopped. Security vote enhances corruption as the beneficiaries are not under scrutiny to give account of how they spend the money. If we must make political offices, especially that of the governor, less attractive, this security vote of a thing must be stopped.
Yeah. From Festus Akimboyewa, says security vote isn't only unconstitutional, it's fraud and is the biggest source of corruption in Nigeria. Time to rise against this impunity. It's immoral for governors to collect millions of naira in security votes and spend it illegally without any accountability.
Now, we have this from Yunus Ade, says security vote is another means of bleeding the system by politicians when security agencies are paid. Now, do they have a special squad?
From Otega Osemwede, says security vote is another fraudulent method from the Nigerian first politicians to loot. There should be an end to this evil practice.
And Clifford Agogoesi tweet says the abuse or misuse of security votes does not negate its usefulness. Executives who abuse and or misuse security votes must be punished in accordance with the law.
Engineer Abdullahi says because security votes are unaccounted for, some governors merely spend 10% of the total. Governors should be made to account for it, and we need to come clear on appropriate institutions to check abuse or misuse of security votes and hold them accountable.
And Victor Uyo Swoma tweets, security votes are a necessary evil. Governors spend mostly on federal security agencies in their state, but I agree there are abuses.
From Olufemi Fineboy, he's so filled with his own emotion. What he just described said, nonsense.
And then Egwando Tony Jeff, most senators who are not ex-governors want to be governor. So why would they want to legislate that security votes be scrapped? All right, now those are some of the tweets that we have. In the meantime, Senator Gaya, want to respond to some of the suggestions?
In summary of all the tweets, Nigerians, some of them do not understand what is meant for a security vote. And some, I agree with some of them that say security votes should be audited. It should be accounted for. That I agree entirely with the Nigerians on that aspect. But the issue of the security vote is very, very important to maintain security of the states. But you see, this boils down to also the Nigerians. We have to learn to elect people without them paying for the election. You see, when governors, as I said earlier, when governors spend much on the election, they'll find a way of recovering their money, which is wrong. Or if people contribute to their election, they want to be patronized in contracts. So I think the whole thing must be looked on both directions. The Nigerians, we Nigerians, and the people who are leaders of the country. If you need to elect a person, you need to look at sincerity, honest, and dedicated person who has interests of the nation at heart, not who has so much money that he puts for the election. So
yeah, but yeah, Senator Kaya, I think one of the things that we can distill from the tweets and indeed reactions of Nigerians with regards to security votes. So look, take a look at the Nigerian situation. We have unemployment, that is, the figures, of course, are pretty high. And then you have insecurity in the country, and the quality of life, is low. And yet you have just a handful of persons who have, as it were, legitimately been given these monies and now utilizing them for the purposes for which such monies were just intended. That amounts to self-enrichment. So why don't we begin to tackle it and say, look, hive off so much from them so that some of it could then be used for other purposes. The opportunity cost, as economists would say, of security votes is humongous.
If you use that amount, part of that amount of money to give people employment in that area, then you are reducing the insecurity. But they misuse it. I understand that it's misused in both areas. But in every aspect, not only on security board, they are misused in every part of any contract in the state or in the federation. So we need to tackle corruption. We need to have honest and sincere people to lead this country or the states. So if we have more people who are honest and sincere, I think that this issue of the amount you spend on security vote is less. I can give you an example. At my time, we spent less than 50 million naira per month. So the total was about 500 million naira per month. Even though that time, the dollar was relatively, the naira has high value. But whatever the case, even at that time, we get about only 60 million per state per month.
All right, Senator Gaya. Yeah. Let's quickly get back to Enugu to take the final word from Professor Onwumere. Briefly, let's take a look at value for money and curb this aspect of abuse or misuse, as the case may be. Where do you stand?
My take is that it should be scaled down, one. It should be accounted for. And two, we can beef up the defense budget. If we beef up the defense budget, scale down security vote, we know that is a necessary evil. That's why we say scale it down. At least at this level now, it can be brought down to 40%. Even 50% is still very high. We cannot give people funds they cannot account for. They make use of it anyhow they like. And we are still watching them. You know, because this government is a corrective government, as we've been told, and they are trying to do, they should look into it very seriously and make sure it's brought down. And apart from that, if not, the funds for security vote could be used to finance some other capital projects that will uplift people's lives. Look at the economy. If they can fix power, fix transport, and then money from all these security votes can be added to help in fixing these things, then Nigerians will be happier. But then in a situation where some people are earning 18,000 per month as a minimum wage, and some individuals are elected into office and given 12 billion a year as security vote, is terrible and outrageous. And again, they talked about parties. I want to make a comment about funding of parties. Why would we allow some individuals to fund our political parties? Why can't the members of a political party, if they are 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, be asked to contribute, say 1,000, and all those are amounts, so that every person who is a member of such a party is actually a stakeholder, not when some individuals hijack it, and make it impossible for some individuals to contribute small amounts that will, that will create volumes. And then some individuals will stop them and decide to fund it so that they can monopolize it. That's part of the problem. I agree totally with the distinguished senator in that respect, but I think it can also, if the parties mean well for Nigeria, they should not allow some individuals to fund the parties. Let it be grassroots. Let everybody be part of the funding so that people can have a stake. And then that will stop, since he aligned it to misuse of security vote and corruption in the system. That will, to a large extent, to reduce corruption. Like he rightly pointed out, some people see politics as investment. They would invest so and so amount, and once they get in there, they have to recoup their investment, and in the process also make profit, because business is not just about breaking even. Business is about making profit in the process while serving the people you have products or services.
All right, Professor Onwumere of the Department of Economics, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, joining us from our Enugu Network Center. We would like to thank you for being part of our discussion this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, we also would like to thank here with us in the Abuja studios, distinguished Senator Kabiru Gaya, former governor of Kano State and now incumbent chair of the Senate Committee on Works. Thanks a lot for your insights.
Well, thank you very much, but I think the government should be able to provide employment for the people to reduce the issue of insecurity. And
then we also have to deal with the question of plutocracy. That's what some of the governors have become.
Yeah.
All right, Blessing, that of course does it for our conversation segment on Good Morning Nigeria today. We move on now to sports. Blessing?
Yes, Nigeria knows rival in Group B for the 2019 Basketball World Cup qualifiers, and Arsene Wenger gets relief as Arsenal beats Manchester United in the Premier League. Details with Musbah Dan Wahab.
Hello there, welcome to Sports this morning. Nigeria's D Tigers have been drawn alongside Mali, Uganda and Rwanda in Group B for the 2019 FIBA Basketball World Cup qualifiers scheduled to hold in China from 31st August to the 15th of September. In a draw ceremony held in China on Sunday, Guinea, South Africa, Cameroon and Tunisia drawn to battle for the sole tickets in Group A, while Congo, Egypt, Morocco and Angola will compete in Group C. Group D houses Mozambique, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire and a yet-to-be-named team. The top 5 teams will advance to China in 2019. The FIBA Basketball World Cup 2019 will see 7 teams qualify directly for the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, with the remaining 4 and the host to be determined through 4 Olympic qualifying tournaments in 2020. The Tigers emerged African champions in 2015 after beating Angola 74-65 in the final of the 2015 AfroBasket Championship in Tunisia. And in football, Arsenal ended Manchester United's 25-match unbeaten run in the Premier League and kept up their hopes of securing a place in the top 4 after a largely uneventful first half. Granit Xhaka opened the scoring with a looping shot from distance which came off the back of Ander Herrera and went over goalkeeper David De Gea.
At the end of the run,
Xhaka who can hit them, and what about that? Stunning strike from Granit Xhaka to catch Manchester United cold.
And they doubled their lead 3 minutes later when Danny Welbeck headed home against his former club after a pinpoint cross from Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Jose Mourinho introduced Marcus Rashford and Jesse Lingard to try to rescue the game, but they failed to bring the visitors to life. The result means Arsenal remain in 6th place, but at 2 points of United in 5th. And that's sport this morning. Join us for more in the course of the day. Good morning.
All right, thank you very much there. Musbah Udan will have 2 brilliant goals from Arsenal, of course, saw to the dismantling of Man U yesterday. Let's go over now to Arsenal Entertainment. Musbah Udan, sorry, Abdul Malik Adio is there with us for a story on a musician from this part.
Hello and thanks for joining us on Arts and Entertainment. He's a rapper, singer, producer and a songwriter. This Nigerian-American artist combines his craft with his ensemble of traditional West African design, creating and cutting the unique picture of one who is still connected to his roots.
I'm a classic man. You can be me when you look this clean. I'm a classic man. Calling on me like a young OG. I'm a classic man.
Born and raised in Nigeria for his formative years, Jidenna Mobison, who is associated with Jenny Monet's Wonderland crew, talks about his African roots and broken lifestyle and his becoming peace.
I learned a proverb that stuck with me my whole life. You're not your own man until your father dies. And that became true for me when my father passed and I moved to Brooklyn.
Bambi, Bambi, ah, bam, Bambi. My dear, my dear, my dear, ah, bam, Bambi.
With his name meaning embracing the father in Igbo, and his signature red cap that typifies his uniqueness, Jidenna explains the impact of his dad and culture on his music and style.
When my father passed, it was a moment in my life where I knew I had to make a transition. I had to be bold, I had to be courageous, I had to take over some of the responsibilities that he carried.
He describes his look as heavily inspired by the Harlem Renaissance, with hits of traditional West African design and the marriage of European and African aesthetics.
When I was a young boy in Nigeria, my father would have about 6, 7 men around wearing these red hats. These red hats in West Africa symbolize the chief. I didn't know exactly how to describe what they did until I watched The Godfather. And I realized that the chief was the African version of a Don.
No, the chief don't run, the chief don't, no, the chief don't.
Inspired by I Love Music Jory, the music powerhouse says he's fighting what he believes music has always been fighting for.
Human beings have harmony. When you play a harmony, the human soul is moved. People feel connected to that musician. They feel connected to the woman or man right next to them. They feel connected to that person. This is what I fight for.
And a little bit more.
With a promising music career, a vibrant record label, and a fashionable persona, the world seems to be Jidena's oyster.
Are we ever gonna know? You should make up your mind. Take it back to my shrine. And I'ma need the whole night. And a little bit more. I don't know how you like it.
Jidena doing us proud right there. And that does it on arts and entertainment. Good morning.
Great fusion, I must say, Abdul Malik Abdul. Thank you very much for the package on entertainment news. Well, that's the program. Good morning, Nigeria, for today. We appreciate your company. Let's do it again tomorrow. My name is Blessing Abu. Do have yourself a great day.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join Blessing, of course, in appreciating your being with us today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Music of my childhood was completely British and American.
So my signature tune is pretty much
Robbers, they rob, they no see you, brother.
And like you said, I'm robbers, rob, they no see you. They no see me, my brother. It happened to me.
Many, many months and many years and come and go.
So Papa God, we say thank you.
So music is the way that the whole world can connect.
Sometimes music goes with comedy. I love music.
Let the love for music